Good morning, dear students. I welcome all of you in today's English class. Today I am going to teach you the lesson 5th of your footprint textbook. The title of the lesson is Footprints Without Feet. So let's begin the class now. My dear students, the footprint without feet is the story of a British scientist whose name is Griffin. The story describes how Griffin discovered a rare drug that could induce invisibility. It also describes how the misuse of the drug finally led to the end of Griffin's life. Now come to the message. H.G. Wells gives you the message that the discovery of science in fact is not bad unless it is used wisely and judiciously. If the discoveries of science are not used properly, it proves to be disadvantageous not for the mankind but also for the discoverer. Okay? H.G. Wells clearly says that it is often said that science is a bane, but in fact it is not so. What makes a science bane is the activities of the man. Science is for the advantage of the mankind. The discovery of science is for making the life of a mankind comfortable and easy. But sometimes we misuse the discoveries in our favor. And this is where the discoveries of science go wrong and proves to be disadvantageous for us. Now what is the message? The message is, if you have got power, then you must use it wisely, patiently, meticulously and judiciously. If the power you have got, you start using for grinding your own end, then the meaning of the power is lost. You start doing something to gain your end so blindly that you don't think your doings is whether in benefit for the society, for the good of the mankind or not. You just go on working in your own way, and finally it proves to be a great hurdle. It proves to be a great hurdle for the progress of your society, for the progress of your nation, and finally for yourself. Dear students, the setting of this story is in London. The season is midwinter. The month is January. The story is very interesting. Now I come to the story. The story is like this. Griffin was a British scientist. He had carried out a number of experiments in order to get some kind of drug that could make the human body invisible. After doing several experiments, he was able to discover such a drug. Now Griffin wanted to test it, to know whether the medicine works or not. So he drank a good quantity of drug himself. The drug reacted sharply. In a few minutes, his body became transparent like a piece of glass. But his body remained as solid as a glass. Now with transparent body and every organ visible, Griffin became ashamed of. In hurry, he took some pieces of clothes and covered his body. Immediately, a miracle happened. The part of his body under cloth cover became visible, but those parts of the body without cloth cover remained invisible. Now Griffin was in confusion. He had in fact discovered a drug for induced invisibility, but he didn't know how to reverse the action. He had not discovered a drug that could reverse the action. Now he seriously began to think to take his experiments ahead in order to get a drug that could reverse the action of invisibility. And for this, he needed a lone and peaceful place. So he left his home and came to a part of London. It was a remote area where there lived a landlord. He went to the landlord and hired a room on rent. He began to live there, carrying out his experiments. But Griffin was a lawless person. He didn't follow the rules the landlord expected of him. He used to come and go according to his own laws. He used to do everything as per his wish. Moreover, the activities of Griffin made the landlord suspicious, and he wanted to get Griffin out of his room. So he asked him to vacate his room. Griffin became very angry and he wanted to take revenge for what the landlord had told him. He set the house to fire, and in order to escape without being seen, he took off the clothes of his body and got away from there. Now Griffin was a homeless person. He had no money to fulfill his requirements. He had no food to eat. He had no experiments to carry on. Above all, he had no place to live. He began to wander in the streets of London, thinking where to go and where not to go. Suddenly, he happened to step in some mud. कीचड़ वाला जगह था, उसी में उसका पाँव पड़ गया था. He happened to step in some mud, and with muddy feet, he came to a house and walked on the steps of the house. Because of this, the imprints of a pair of bare foot was cast on the steps of the house. Two nearby boys noticed a pair of footprints, but the caster of the footprints nowhere to be seen. The boys became curious to know how come the imprints of a pair of bare footprints was being casted, but the person casting it was not visible. But before the two boys could make out anything meaningful, footprints appeared again from nowhere. One after another, footprints began to appear, which made the two boys highly curious. The footprints appeared on the steps of the house and came down to the streets of the London. The two boys went on following the footprints. They went on following until the footprints became fainter and fainter and finally disappeared. Now the griffin got rid of the following two boys, but his trouble was not over as yet. Griffin had chosen a bad time of the year to wander in the streets of the London. It was the month of January, it was midwinter, and the chill cold air was blowing outside. Griffin was naked. He was moving with invisible body. He was naked and feeling cold. He was shivering with cold. He needed a house to go into. He needed clothes to keep his body warm. But he didn't know what to do. While wandering, he came to a part of London where there was a store. He decided to step in the store and do something to save his life. The closing time of the store came. When the doors of the store were shut, Griffin entered the store. He went in, found a box. He broke open the box and got some clothes. He fitted himself with all kinds of clothes that could keep his body warm. He wore an overcoat. He took out a hat with round clips all around. He wore a goggles. Now he was hungry. No, it was a store, and there was a restaurant inside the store. There was a grocery inside the store. So he was hungry and he wanted to eat something. So he went inside a restaurant, entered the kitchen and found cold meat and coffee there. So he ate cold meat to his fill and drank a cup of cold coffee, but his hunger didn't end. After some time, he had his meal with sweets and a bottle of wine which he got from a grocery. Now Griffin was a most satisfied but a tired person. He wanted to sleep. So he slept inside the store on a pile of quilts. He slept so deeply that he didn't wake until the two assistants of the shop arrived next morning. They opened the door of the store, went in. Griffin, seeing the two assistants approaching, panicked and he began to run in order to keep himself free. The two assistants noticed the person and began to chase Griffin. Now Griffin had only one way to save himself. He started unclothing all the newly clothes which he had got. Finally, he became a naked person and invisible, and safely he came out of the store. Now Griffin was again in trouble. It was January, chill cold was unbearable for each and everyone outside. Griffin was again shivering with cold. Now he again wanted a place of shelter to keep himself warm. This time he decided to rob a theatrical company. So he came to a part of the London named Durham. It is the name of the place. He came to Durham, which was a center of theatrical stores where things for people, where things for playing dramas were available. He entered a theatrical shop and got some clothes to cover his body and some extra things, like he got a whisker to cover up his neck. He got an artificial nose to cover up his nose. Okay, he got a bandage to cover up his open head. Griffin did it because he found that he was able to cover almost all part of his body with clothes in order to be visible, but the parts of his body above the shoulder remained uncovered and invisible. So he decided this time to cover the part of his body above his shoulder. So he got a bandage to cover up his head and forehead. He got a goggles to cover up his eyes and artificial nose to cover up his nose. This way he became a complete visible man. After some time, after getting himself fitted with all kinds of required clothes, he came to the counter of the store where counter clerk was sitting. He gave a severe blow to the counter clerk and he fell down. Thereafter, he robbed the counter clerk of all the money he had and he left the shop happily. Dear student, this was the first part of the story. For next part, wait till tomorrow. Thank you very much.